Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is a wonderful turnout, and we're really excited to see you. My name is Ursula Diamond, and I'm the director of the Seoul Center for Student Opportunity. My primary responsibilities are focused on career services, as well as our sponsored internships and experiences program. And I work very closely with Amy Flanagan, affectionately known as the upstairs team at the Seoul Center, who focus on everything scholar community. Let me introduce over to Freya to introduce herself.
Thanks, Ursula. Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. My name is Freya Hurtado. I am a fellow alumna, class of 2009. At the Seoul Center for Student Opportunity, I am one of our interest cluster career coaches. So we operate off of an interest cluster model, i.e. not just you're an econ major, you go talk to someone who's an econ career coach, you talk to it's really based off of industry as well as function. So my three interest clusters are accounting and financial services, government, law, and public policy, and then finally nonprofit and social enterprise. And I am so excited to see so many familiar faces and names. This is going to be a really fun session.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the names come in, and it's so great to see some of these people we haven't seen in a while, and some people we saw more recently. It is so exciting. Before I start sharing my screen, I just want to do a particular shout out to Ariana Kemp, who you'll see in my background. So if she's feeling a little conflicted being in two places simultaneously, both DC and on the Claremont campus, we're using an old photo of her. So I hope she appreciates that. Right, I'm going to jump into sharing my screen, and then we can get going. So, Freya, give me a nod if you can see everything okay?
Looking great.
Awesome. All right, so what are we doing here? So this idea came from the Seoul Center, us getting together with the Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement, because at the Seoul Center, we were starting to see quite a big uptick in the number of alumni who were reaching out for help and support. Be it that they either, if they felt it was time to pivot, to do something differently because of changes to their job, their employer, the job market, or that they had been let go and that they were in a serious strait, they hadn't recruited in a long time, and they just needed some help brushing up on those skills, resources, and most importantly, the connections, how to connect to other people in the CMC community who could help them move forward. So we have been having a number of individual coaching calls with alumni, and we thought it might be a good time to maybe bring some people together to share a little bit about what we have, the typical messaging that we would give in these coaching calls, but also give a chance for the community to come together like this. And I know there's a number of people on the call who aren't necessarily looking for help, but are there to help other people. And so hopefully connect some of those people together. So what do we plan to cover today? Looks like a lot, but we'll try and get through it quite quickly so that we have time for Q&A and discussion at the end. I suspect there will be some discussion as we go along based on questions. So we encourage you as we're going through for you to either put your question in the chat, raise your hand, shout out, or alternatively, we can wait until the end. So however you feel more comfortable. But we thought one of the biggest questions we get is what is actually going on out there in the job market. So we thought we would start there. So Freya is going to take us through a recruitment update, big picture. We can't cover everything in minutiae, but just to kind of give a sense of what we are seeing, what seems to be going well, where are some areas that are a little bit more challenging. Then Freya has been gathering some information and some wonderful stories about how the Claremont McKenna network has been coming together to help each other. And she's going to highlight a few examples just to kind of give a flavor of, if you're one of those people who's looking to help, how that might look. And then we're going to run through very quickly the services that we typically provide to CMC alumni so that you know what you have to access on tap and where you can find some of those resources online or come and chat with us. And then finally, if you are still looking for ways to help pay it forward to other alumni, we'll cover that as well. But as I said, we're trying to make this as much interactive as possible, engaging as possible. So please feel free to raise your hand or put questions in the chat as you go. All right, over to Freya.
Lovely, thank you. So I'm not going to go into a full-on econ lesson here. It's been a really long time since I, studied it. But I just wanted to give a quick update as to what's happening in the world out there. This is going to be much more of a United States hiring perspective, just so we're all aware and to, make sure that we're all talking about the same things. As a result of the pandemic, I think a lot of us are really struggling with, what is it like to traditionally work, 100% in the office? There's questions around hybrid work, flexible work. I think it's really funny. Just a couple days ago, Zoom, which is the face of remote work during COVID-19, announced that they're having their employees return to in-person work, which I think is incredibly, funny. Individuals and organizations, lifestyles and operations have completely shifted as a result. And so I think there's a lot of different expectations from both employees as well as employers as to what is the ideal working environment that people would like to be in. There's a lot of values, evaluation, personal values, and kind of lifestyle changes that everyone is thinking through. How is that going to impact how we work or do business going forward? And then obviously from the interest rate hikes from the Fed in the last year, a lot of increases, which is meant to restrain spending and also curb inflation. That basically means we've seen impacts across multiple sectors for things like, stocks to bonds to, borrowing money, et cetera. It's really impacted a lot of different sectors. Not to make this all doom and gloom, right? There are some sectors that we have seen that are hiring and that are still growing and still adding new jobs to the payroll. According to a recent study from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a lot of those sectors that are hiring are professional and business services, finance, leisure and hospitality, manufacturing, wholesale and retail trade. Even though they are still hiring, they may not be hiring at the same numbers that we have seen in the past. And so even though these are still robust areas, they might not also be areas that you or other CMCers in our community are looking toward. So just wanted to share a little bit about that. The sectors that are experiencing some challenges are technology, create a kind of brand strategy, marketing, and entertainment. So from the tech side, there are whole teams and divisions that have been cut. Product management has taken a huge hit. We've seen the brand management and strategy and the user experience, user interface roles particularly been impacted. From all sorts of marketing, regardless of sector, this one's more of a functional role. The marketing roles and human resources roles tend to be the earliest roles that get cut from organizations when they're experiencing challenges. And then obviously with entertainment, there's a lot of things that are going on with the writer strike, SAG-AFTRA strike, and that basically has an impact, right? Not just in those industries, but because of the intersectionality of all of these sectors and how that therefore impacts the job market. We've also heard from some of our consulting folks, right? Again, they're still hiring, but again, smaller numbers. We've seen job start dates get pushed back so that way they can write out what's happening in the next couple of months and then be able to see where that goes and resume operations from there. All that to say is networking is absolutely critical here. One, so that you have a sense of, or anyone who's looking for an opportunity understands what an organization might be facing or what they might be working toward to get that inside scoop and that perspective. And also for you to be able to best navigate the interview process. So that's what's happening on a broad level. And again, we are here to help. So let's chat a little bit about how we can help, and as well as some really lovely stories from our alumni network and alumni community of how they've been able to support. I don't think I saw Tyler join in. He did tell me that he was about to hop on a flight. so he passes along his apologies for not being able to join. However, I wanted to share a little bit from him as to why he's highlighted here. And these are, just so you know, just a small handful of the stories that we've seen come out in the last couple of months. So from Tyler, in case you didn't know, there was an effort that was that occurred in about March, April of 2023, in conjunction with the Randall Lewis Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, called layoffs.CMC. So for Tyler, he was laid off in the summer of 2022, like many others who were in tech. He shared, I took a couple of weeks for reflection. Maybe if I could do it over again, I would have taken longer. And then I was lucky to be able to stand up a consulting practice that ultimately led me to my next gig in January of 2023. In some ways, I was on the early side of the layoffs, but the numbers kept going up as we entered 2023. And so after some conversations between the CMC Alumni Association and the Randall Lewis Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, we thought it was likely that there were a good number of CMCers who were also impacted. It really seemed like a great opportunity for the CMC network and community to come together to support each other. What we launched was pretty lightweight, a spreadsheet designed to surface information of people who had been impacted. The sheets made the rounds on social media via our organic efforts and the support of the CMC comms team. The Sol Center then stepped in and reached out to each person who was on that spreadsheet individually to bring all the resources to bear. A layoff can be really scary, and this was a great collective effort by the CMC community to step up, demonstrate that we care, and help out, which really is a great segue to this conversation that we have today. So I just wanted to share those. That was a self-initiated effort. And that's just one of the really great stories about how the CMC community comes together to support one another. I also wanted to highlight the next person who is pictured here. I don't think I saw Tim either but I think the rest of the folks are indeed on this call. So we'll definitely hear more from them and not just my voice. For Tim, he is a proud alum and a CMC parent. He, in March, with the bank failure of the Silicon Valley Bank, he reached out to every single CMC alum who was employed by Silicon Valley Bank to offer his support, given his similar experience at Bear Stearns in 2008. So imagine my surprise as I reach out to those CMC alumni at Silicon Valley Bank, and they said, oh, you're the second person from CMC to reach out to me. Tim Galbraith also reached out to me to share his support. So I think that's, again, something that he wasn't necessarily told to do, right? No one instructed him to do so, but because of his own personal experience, he felt called to take this initiative. So I love, stories like that. I think I did see Stella on the line. So I wanted to bring her up, and if Stella, if you're willing to share a little bit about your own experience coming back to campus, engaging with students and alumni, and how you've been able to help students and alumni as well.
Hi, everybody. I am class of 97. I was an econ accounting major when I was at Claremont, McKenna. I spent my first couple of years at PwC in consulting here in Los Angeles, and I went to business school at UCLA. And then after that, I switched over into finance, where I spent about 14 years in investment banking. I was an associate, and I was a banker for a couple of years, but then I switched into various operational roles in investment banking. The biggest one that is most relevant to today's conversation is that I oversaw analyst and associate recruiting for UBS, and then later on I switched over to Moelis & Company, which is another investment bank, and spent there another 8 years there, where I like I said, I oversaw the analyst and associate recruiting and training program. So I was coincidentally on campus pretty regularly for recruiting. And, for the benefit of my firm, we were recruiting from Claremont, hiring summer interns and full-time staff. And then just because I was regularly active on campus, and I was also still really close to Professor Masood and some of the other professors in the accounting department, I would attend, alumni panels and speak to students in that capacity. And then on occasion, I would reach out, or students would reach out to me just to get career advice and things like that. I am, for the last 6.5 years, I've actually been in private equity, again, still in West LA area. And so my involvement on campus is really through the Alumni Association and the Board of Trustees. And then just also, because I'm in Southern California, Claremont is not that far away. So whenever, folks out there, ask me to attend stuff on campus, I tried my best to get out there and things like that. And so this past spring, I was out, it was in April, because it was right around when the seniors were graduating. I was on campus for a senior event, but then I ended up doing coffee chats with a bunch of students. And it was a mix of sophomores, juniors, seniors and stuff. And, I did like 30-minute sessions with like 8 students. And I was able to, so one person was graduating, but her job, her start date got deferred by like 6 months. And then she had reached out to me after the coffee chat and said, hey, do you happen to know anyone in private equity that's looking for an internship or for an intern? I'd like to be able to fill my time, between now and my start date and do something more productive as opposed to just kind of futz around, which I probably would have taken the path of futzing around and traveling and stuff, but she decided to be more productive with her time. So she had reached out and asked about any contacts I had around internship programs. And, fortunately, we were actually able to place her here at my own firm for an 8-week internship. So she's actually here right now, and then she'll be with us through the end of September before she moves to New York for her full-time job with EY Parthenon. And then one of the other students I spoke to from the coffee chats was a sophomore who is originally from Europe and, who but wanted to work in the United States, but had been running into some issues with recruiters giving him any attention, even though on paper he looked really good, but because of his immigration status. And, a lot of firms are, a little bit hesitant to commit to going through immigration and visa processes for students, was having a hard time just getting traction for internships and stuff like that. So I had given him some advice on how to deal with navigating some of those issues. And one of the other things I had suggested to him was potentially actually trying to get a job with a firm that has a US presence, but also has a European presence, and potentially actually getting an internship with their European office first, and then kind of proving himself and proving, what a great candidate he was. And then seeing if he can then just transfer his potential offer ultimately down the line to a US role. So I actually put him in touch with some of the folks from Moelis & Company that I worked with in our London office, and was able to get him into the interview process there. And he was able to secure a summer internship for next summer. So he already knows what his junior year investment banking internship is going to be with Moelis & Company in London. And then from there, we'll see where it goes, if he's able to transfer into one of Moelis's New York offices, or just take that opportunity and transfer to another firm, because he's already kind of, now that he has like a well-known investment bank on his resume, assuming he does well there, that'll just make him a more attractive candidate that people might be more willing to bet on in terms of committing to, the H-1B visa process or whatever other immigration process he might have going down the line. So those were just kind of 2 examples of, recent opportunities where it wasn't just that I had the coffee chat with them. Like, those were the 2 students that just happened to actually follow up with me after the coffee chat, and just kind of press a little bit more, ask a little bit more, to see, what contacts I might have. And so it kind of just worked out that there were people in my network that were able to make it happen. So.
Thanks so much, Stella. I know both of those students very well, and I know that they speak so highly, and they're so grateful for the opportunities that you were able to help them achieve. Thank you again. I wanted to highlight Vaidehi and Rashid. I actually I think I saw both of them, or maybe
I'm
if
here.
you wouldn't. Oh, perfect. If you wanted to share a couple of words about your experience connecting with CMCers, both students and alumni, getting them really connected and plugged into Washington, D.C., as well as navigating things like international development and international affairs. I think you have a lot to speak here.
Thank you, Freya. Happy to share my experiences. It's a bit of a tough act to follow after Stella, but I guess for me, I was class of 2013, majored in economics at CMC, and sort of took a bit of a non-traditional path after CMC, right? Working in sort of primary research, banking regulation at a think tank right after CMC, and then sort of ended up in policy school, after which I ended up in my current role working with the World Bank Group at the intersection of international finance and international development. And Vaidehi, my wife, she's not here on this call, but I'll speak on behalf of her as well, that she had a very similar sort of non-traditional path. We both felt like it was really hard to sort of find CMCers or even alum that could give us sort of the support we needed at the time to pursue some of the next opportunities we were looking for. So it certainly, I mean, I took it upon myself that now that I've been through figuring out all of these various steps, I'd love to sort of offer that, and so far I've been super impressed, and always very, very energized talking to every single CMCer I've spoken to over the last many months, either sort of on a one-on-one basis, but also just being part of the DC Trek. It's been such a joy, obviously, working with Freya and team. Every CMCer I feel like asks very, very sharp questions, have such clear direction so early. Sometimes, like freshmen, sophomores already know exactly what they want and have very, very good questions to ask about that. That's always very impressive to me. And yeah, I mean, for me, I certainly discovered the joy of Washington, D.C. and living here and engaging with the community here. During my time at CMC as a sophomore at CMC, I interned here and absolutely fell in love with the city and everything it has to offer, and made it my goal to sort of move here, be part of the community. And now that I'm here, I'm a huge advocate for CMCers, because I think CMCers are sort of a natural fit for a lot of the opportunities that Washington, D.C. has to offer. And so I continue to sort of be very interested. I really enjoy talking to CMCers who are interested in Washington, D.C. and the types of jobs that Washington, D.C. has to offer. And I'll also say that it hasn't just been me offering advice, but honestly, for me, I've always relied on the CMC village for my own professional development, for my own career transitions. I mean, most recently, I just made probably one of the most significant career transitions I made after having worked a job for the last 5 years. I just moved to a different job and relied heavily on the sort of the CMC community here in DC. Everything from helping me strategize, helping me network, helping me even sort of provide counsel and maybe even some emotional support when I was stressed and feeling like there really wasn't anything I could do. I got so much support from the CMC community here in DC that they played such a key role in enabling my transition. And yeah, all of this just brings me a lot of joy and a lot of energy, and I'm very glad to be doing this. And I think I speak on behalf of Vaidehi as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, I mean, like, I've had to like train myself not to just cry, because I love this is one of my joys of being an alumna and working for my alma mater, is really seeing these connections, different industries, different sectors, different majors, different countries of origin, different, places in people's careers, and everyone comes together when, they're tapped right on the shoulder, or if they, see something and they want to act. And so I just want to say thank you so much for our alumni. Again, these are just a small sampling of, some of the recent stories. If we had another 10 hours, I think we could share some more, but I think we also would love to share a little bit about what other ways the Sol Center specifically can help with our alumni who may be looking to make transitions with their careers.
Perfect. So, by the way, we should do a shout out to the ultimate connector and networker, Mr. John Veranda.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So he is the model for this behavior, and I'm sure everybody on the call knows and loves John. This is just, I think we all know this. We're part of the CMC community. I hope this slide resonates with you. But we have been really trying to find some language to figure out what is it that we do at CMC that is so special. And this isn't necessarily about the Sol Center per se. I think the words on this page would relate to the whole of Claremont McKenna, the way the academics works, the way that athletics works, the way that Dean of Students and the Registrar's Office, every aspect of the Claremont McKenna community on campus is focused on providing that individualized coaching and support. And when alumni graduate, that continues, right? That continues either through staff and faculty at Claremont McKenna, or it becomes more peer coaching and support. So it is such in the blood of what we do. For students, specifically early real world career experiences, we hope those internships, those networking treks, those job shadows, those panel discussions, those coffee chats, they are all helping to contribute to a sense of career readiness when they graduate. But we know people continue to explore through their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. So this is a never-ending process of gaining more career experience throughout to help inform you as the circumstances change and your goals change. And then finally, and I think this is really what we've been saying throughout the presentation so far, there is something quite special about the Claremont McKenna network and the connections that it forms. The fact that Freya or I or John or anybody on the call can reach out to a specific alum and say, this other alum needs help, would you mind talking to them? And the answer is categorically always yes, without hesitation. Now, that is something quite special. I came from NYU, and I can tell you right now, that is not the case at New York University. There is something about, and not even with the Claremont colleges, do I think you see this level of support, tight-knit, really responsive community. And so I think that's, at the heart of everything that we're talking about today. So let's keep going. The services we offer to CMC alumni. We're going to go through these relatively fast because we do want to leave time for discussion. Freya and I have met with a lot of alumni on an individual basis over the last 7-8 months, and a whole series of stories and opportunities and concerns. And typically the three things that alumni are asking for are these three things. I need connections. I need maybe some advice, particularly if I'm planning on career pivoting, or I'm moving to a new city, or I'm thinking about a new profession to explore. And sometimes people are looking for tools, like I'm a little rusty. It's been a while since I wrote a cover letter, or I reached out for an informational interview. Can you just remind me how to do that so I do it right from the beginning? So we're just going to quickly go through each one of these. So the first thing is connecting CMC alumni. Connections are everything. As Freya was saying right at the top of the presentation, when talking about what's going on in the marketplace and what we're seeing, networking, connections, all the examples that were given by those amazing alumni, everything is happening now because of somebody somebody who can connect you with somebody else, can open doors for you, can connect you with the right person. Engage.CMC really is basically a game changer for how to connect with alumni now, for alumni to connect with a lot of alumni. You'll also find a lot of students on the platform because they've recognized this is how I find out how alumni, who's working where and what I can do. And so we often encourage people to use Engage.CMC together with LinkedIn. Engage.CMC is where people should have their most up-to-date preferred contact details, and also some useful, really fun stuff like the dorms they were at, where did they study abroad, what teams were they on, things like that. But it may not be 100% up to date. LinkedIn is far more likely that the LinkedIn bio is going to be significantly more up to date. So we say, have a look at LinkedIn, figure out who you want to talk to, and then go on to Engage.CMC to find their contact details, maybe even connect through the platform. And one of the things that we offer at the Soul Center is we can actually run you Excel reports, data scraping out of LinkedIn based on a whole series of different parameters. So it doesn't mean to say it's going to be 100% the most comprehensive or the most up-to-date information from LinkedIn, but it's going to significantly speed up your efficiency in terms of having a starting point. And we would always say, always double check. Like if you're interested in a particular employee, let's say the example that Rashid gave of like, I'm looking for people who have experience at the World Bank, always double check on LinkedIn, because you'll see there not only who's there right now, but also who has been there, who interned there, where do you have connections. But the LinkedIn reports can significantly speed up where, particularly for things like geography or industries, where we have connections to the CMC alumni platform. And then finally, Freya and myself and other people at the Soul Center are always ready to make introductions to specific people. If there's like a particular person at an organization or a particular connection that you tried reaching out to, but you couldn't get a response from, we will do our best to try and help you make that connection. So we have an opportunity here to jump out and to look at Engage.CMC if people would like to. Alternatively, the screenshot here kind of shows you the most important features. I think I'm going to stay in just for the purposes of time, just work off the screenshot ahead, unless anybody puts in the chat that they would love a quick demo of Engage, in which case I will jump in. So you'll see on the left-hand navigation, directory is really going to be a key feature here as to where you find people. Search parameters are significantly better than in the previous alumni directory. You've got a feed of what's going on the campus at any one time, or out off campus and in some of the other chapters. And then there are jobs being posted by alumni for alumni. This is a closed CMC community. So if you know of jobs that you think at your place of employment or elsewhere where you think a CMCer would be a really good fit, somebody with some experience under their belt, please go onto this job site and start posting this information, and only CMC alumni will get to see it. If you're a little hesitant about doing that, or you have a connection through HR, that's really easy. You can just contact me or Freya, and we can figure out how to get this on the site for you. We're trying to make this as easy as possible for the alumni and not create any barriers to using that. And as Josh is saying in the chat, after this call, even if you have an account, get in there, make sure it's still up to date, make sure it still reflects your current job, location, contact details, things like that. So that's the connection component, really critical, important part of helping the CMC connect to each other. Now I'm going to hand back to Freya to talk a little bit about providing advice.
Sure. So we obviously recognize that you are all individuals in very different places of life, different places physically, different places in your careers. You have your own goals in mind. So we do not provide cookie cutter, everything is the same for each, person that we talk to. We really get to know you, what your circumstances are, to be able to tailor the advice for what you are looking for. Some of the major topics and how we are able to provide this advice is around things like personal branding, obviously the mechanics of, is your LinkedIn up to snuff, but also how do you tell a story if you've been laid off, right? How can we present, what happened in a way that, is true to what occurred, but also how you've grown and what you're now transitioning to, highlighting the skills and your experiences, and being able to showcase your best version of yourself as you go into interviews or informational chats. We are also able to provide insight and intelligence that we are hearing from our employer partners and our alumni. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, sometimes the feedback that I hear from my employer HR partners is like a shiny, glossy, happy version of what's going on and who's being hired. And a lot of the really insightful pieces that add a little bit of detail and a little bit of more dimension to what the recruiters are telling me come from the alumni who are working in those industries. So we're able to provide a little of that insight for you. We also provide advice on how you want to achieve your individual goals. So that might be being a sounding board for your ideas, or even being a jumping off board for the ideas that you have in place. So we can partner with you on all of those and more. But honestly, like having a conversation with not just us, but someone who is a trusted advisor for you, someone who knows you well too, is a really great place to begin the process, because it really is. The getting to know you process can take a lot of time, right? So obviously, like, think through who might already be in your existing network, right? Be it CMCers or people who are not from CMC, but who know you very well. They can also be great resources on what story you're trying to craft for yourself, as well as how do you want to set your goals and achieve that. We also share a lot of tools to enable success. Most of those tools, almost all of those tools actually are visible and available free for your use on our Sol Center website. The link is on the page. I will actually say that most of those resources are on the student section of the website, but don't let deter you. It's still very relevant and applicable information. There's information on what a resume or cover letter should look like. There's information on informational interviewing, some good questions to ask, how to approach people, how much time to take, how to follow up, right? To Stella's point, that she was able to help the students who were able to follow up on those initial coffee chats. So that informational interviewing guide can be really helpful for you, especially if you are a naturally introverted person. I actually am a naturally introverted person. And so sometimes reaching out to people who I don't know feels a little stressful. This is a really great starting point that I think alleviates a lot of that pressure and contextualizes why it's important to be building these relationships. There's also additional resources on how to apply to graduate school if that's something that you're considering. We do offer services in that regard as well. Thinking through your big picture, what you're trying to accomplish. The most common graduate degrees that CMCers obtain after graduation tend to be JDs, so law school. I am the pre-law advisor, so I'm happy to support you in your application process, as well as MBAs. So those are the two most prominent ones, but maybe that's not for you and you're thinking about, a grad school in philosophy or in data science or getting a master's in international affairs. Whatever the case might be, there's some really helpful tools to get yourself organized, to think through this really big, life and career decision. And I'll just talk about, how to be an alumni and pay it forward. We've definitely heard a lot from our alumni who are on the call. A lot of them had received help of their own, through the network, through the relationships that they've built from their time at CMC, and are paying it forward now. Engage.CMC, we didn't showcase this, but if you were to actually play around and go through all of the different areas, if you were to click on actually the directory feature, you can see that people have specified, hi, I'm willing to help. Hi, I'm willing to be a mentor. And some of those categories include answering career industry questions, helping open doors into, organizations, providing, coffee chats and intelligence in that way. So I think that's a really great place to begin. And again, as an introvert, seeing someone who's raised their hand to say, I am willing to help, takes a huge load off of my shoulders. We've also seen alumni pay it forward through mentorship, right? Some of them are formal mentorships, some of them are informal mentorships, but all of that is, so great to see how people grow and develop through those relationships. You can pay it forward by letting the community know about a job or any internship openings. So we have that Engage.CMC jobs posting board that is only for alumni. So that's only for full-time opportunities. However, if you were like, I know that people are also interested in short-term internships. Maybe you're in grad school and you're thinking like, oh, I want to get an internship over my summer, right? Engage.CMC might not be the best place for something like that. Definitely reach out to us at the Career Services Office to let us know you've got these opportunities, what your connection or context might be to said organization that is hiring, and we can help disseminate to the right people, be they on campus or off campus. And then obviously sharing advice and experience. I've lived my own life. It's probably very different from Ursula's life. It actually is very different from Ursula's life. But we find that there's so many other ways that we have shared affinities, and oftentimes that's the launching point for some really great conversations and some really great friendships and mentorships that result. So I encourage you, if you are an alum who is looking to help, this is a really great way. But also I hope for those of you who might be looking for your next step, there are so many alumni who do want to pay it forward, right? So please do take advantage of this natural offering.
All right, so I think we're open for questions. Please note down our emails if you are interested in following up on any topic that we have talked about today, and also connect with us on LinkedIn if you haven't already, so that we can help connect you to other people. But please, I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces again. And thank you so much, Freya, for all of that information. And let's just start chatting. What is on people's minds? Was there anything we talked about that you want to follow up on, discuss, ask questions about? Don't be shy.
And Ursula, I was just going to add, people are more than welcome to unmute themselves and ask their questions, or raise their hand if there's a queue. Also, I know sometimes people are on their way home and they're in the metro and they've got their earpods in or whatever. If you want to drop your question in the chat, I'm more than happy to read it out as well.
Hi.
So Career Services did a great job for me. Out of college in 2006, I got a job through the Career Services Department, and I'm still there 17 years later. So thank you for that. But it's been a long time since I've been part of the recruiting process. What sort of services do you offer to employers, sort of on the other side of the table, if anything?
I'm going to suggest Freya takes that one because she is probably on the call with employers almost as much as she is with students and with alumni. So Freya, why don't you kick off? And if I think of anything else, I'll add in.
Absolutely. So we know that not often do all organizations have the ability to come on campus to do any on-campus recruitment. So especially with all of the technological advances, there are a lot of additional ways to get in front of candidates. Obviously, Ursula and I are a little bit closer to the students who are currently here. And so if you're looking for experienced hires, definitely still let us know that you are looking. Post things on Engage.CMC, post things on the Claremont McKenna College Alumni Association LinkedIn for any of those types of opportunities. However, if you were like, I would love to hire another CMCer who is hungry for experience, we can discuss what makes the most sense for your organization and for the position that you're trying to hire for. So sometimes it could be getting you in front of student clubs, getting you in front of faculty who might be willing to offer a connection, right? Or an e-introduction if they know you. there's a lot of different ways that we can do that, but we can organize things like on-campus coffee chats to formal interviews to information sessions. There's a lot that we can do, again, depending on what you'd like to, what your constraints are, as well as, you know, what your own recruitment timelines might look like.
Actually, talking about coffee chats, Freya, I want to do a plug for Engage.CMC. So one of the things that we're doing this year, so Engage.CMC, just to remind people, is where we invite volunteers and anybody who is sort of connected to the CMC community who wants to kind of celebrate how well things have been going, but also to learn some new skills and information and get some inside information about what's actually going on in the campus right now, so that you can be a better advocate for CMC. We are planning on offering a series of coffee chats on anybody who participates who would like to come in a little early or stay a little late to meet with current students and offer coffee chats. So that is a wonderful way. This is exactly what Stella was referring to when she came on campus for another event, but then said she could arrive half a day early and do a series of coffee chats with students, and it was amazing. That is exactly what the students are craving. I'm sure it's what a lot of the alumni on this call are craving, that personalized time to be able to just ask lots of questions and get some really thoughtful and trusted advice from people who are a little further ahead in their careers.
Kevin, did that answer your questions? Or
Yes, I'll be in touch.
perfect, please do. Looking forward to it. I also noticed I got a couple of like LinkedIn connection requests throughout this meeting. I love that. Please keep them coming. Would love to get connected with all of you all and be able to speak with you offline. So please keep them coming.
I was going to say, Freya, that I thought Ratchet's little dog was really cute, but not quite as cute as Katie's child who was there joining the Zoom. That was fun. Do you and Ursula still see graduate school as a way to recharge and redirect a career? Or is it just too time-consuming and expensive these days?
I think that's really dependent on what you're trying to accomplish, to be perfectly honest. I can take a quick stab at that that answer, especially because I am the pre-law advisor, and I also talk with a lot of MBA candidates, having gone to Berkeley Haas. So I do think that some of these graduate schools are very natural opportunities to gain a new skill or to open up and branch out and add people to your network. I'm going to use that word again, and get some additional perspectives as to you know, how you can apply those skills. So I think for some roles in particular, having a graduate degree can be really helpful. But I also advise, you know, any younger recent grads to take into consideration that some of these graduate school programs also require a certain minimum number of years of post-undergrad experience, because that's really going to allow you to have a more focused and I guess we'll just stick with focus, a more focused, you know, graduate school experience. And it also helps you to tell what your story is, right? Why do you want to go to graduate school? Why do you want to go to graduate school now? How is it going to be the next logical step to get you to where you ultimately want to be? So I do think that it is a viable option. It's not necessarily for everyone. And I do find that some sectors value different types of graduate degrees differently. And so there are some sectors where like being there, being present and working your way up and becoming a subject matter expert is going to be more relevant than getting a graduate school degree. Great question.
I would condone everything that Freya just said. I would also say sometimes going to grad school is a great way to pivot to gain more skills. If you're feeling like, for example, like one of the hot new things right now is getting into data science and data analysis, and maybe I'll just get myself a master's in data analysis to get there. And so then it's a matter of like really trying to figure out what skills will I have, what is the job description that I'm actually aiming towards, having that dream job description to say the skills that they're listing as required are those the skills that this program will give me. Will they give me the experience? Will they give me internships and externships that will allow me to put things on my resume that will be really helpful? So again, super personalized, as Freya said, and kind of talking through that with each person to make sure before they commit a lot of money and a lot of time and effort, that you have a clear, a clear goal and a clear action plan that's achievable.
Josh.
Right, Ursula, I had a question come in the chat, which I was just wondering if you could speak to interviewing resources that might be available to alumni, and if there's an alum who might need some help in terms of the interviewing portion of their job search or their career pivot, what resources might be available?
Great. So thank you. Great question. So we have on our website, we have a bunch of different guides and suggestions and presentations around, particularly around behavioral interviewing, but also a few specific guides around, sort of case consulting and financial technical and coding technical. However, really the rubber hits the road when it comes to just mock interviewing, right? That's what you really want, to be able to sit down with somebody, be put through your paces and being given instantaneous feedback by somebody you trust in a safe environment that you can then take away and make actionable. So that is one of the things that we absolutely offer. If somebody is needing a little brushing up or just confidence building in that area, just to practice even just some of those key questions that tell me about yourself, killer. Why do you want to work here? And then what are some questions that you have for me? Some of those are like the critical end pieces of an interview where you can really impress. But having somebody be able to give you that feedback is really important. So you can absolutely reach out to us for that. But in addition, just reaching out to people you trust, reaching out to other alumni and asking them to put you through your paces, particularly if it's a more technical interview that you're going for. But yeah, it is. I know it can be very intimidating to go back into that interview process again, particularly as so much of the beginning of the process tends to be a little bit more AI focused. At which case I should also make a plug. One of our alumni, Varun Puri, has developed a software tool that actually does just that. AI direct feedback on your interview answers in response to questions that are done within the system. And it analyzes real time, gives you the script, gives you some suggestions and some feedback, and that is called Yoodly, and Yoodli. I think Freya's chat, I can see she's starting to type right now, and that's also a great resource. And if you come in through the CMC link, you should be able to get straight in there with no wait list. It's a free resource, so you can practice there if you just want to hone a few of the key questions and get some feedback from an AI person rather than a real person.
Just a really quick thing about the CMC one. You do have to use your CMC email to access that version. So I'll put the Yoodli.ai link into the chat for everyone. However, we may have to have a conversation with Varun about if you are no longer accessing your CMC student email, like myself. I let that password expire a year after I graduated. So I'll work on that as we take the next question.
Chris.
Hi there, my name is Chris Menger, and so currently, I'm just very, very soon, I am looking to recruit some researchers as, some interns and, maybe a hire or two to research a very specific area called natural language understanding. It's related to natural language processing. And I probably, couldn't kind of get everyone. I'll have to look at a number of different schools to find someone, because natural language understanding is a small niche. If I reach out to other career centers, that are not within the 5 Cs, are they going to be like receptive to somebody who's, looking for, interns, or do I have to somehow be connected to other career centers across the country in order to put postings for interns on their sites?
Well, pretty much every career services center is going to be using some kind of platform. We
Okay.
use Handshake, which is, I think, the largest platform used across most career services centers, but there are other ones out there, Simplicity, 1220 to name a few. And there's going to be a career services person who is employer relations who would love to hear from you, Chris.
Okay, good.
If there is a match of the types of degrees and majors that particularly seem to fit well with you. If you also want to be connected with somebody, for example, over at Harvey Mudd,
Yes.
that might be a better fit, and we can absolutely help facilitate that. The career services offices within the colleges tend to operate very closely together. We share information, we share jobs, events, employers. So you might want to start there. But yeah, I think just reaching out on our website, the link I gave you, there is a employers page. And you can click on that, or in our case, you could also click on the alumni page in order to be able to see how to post opportunities. But the employers page typically will tell you this is how you post a job with us.
Okay.
And they would love to hear from you.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that there's no like kind of barrier preventing me from just going in. They just have a page for it probably. And
yeah.
That's it.
And I'm really, congratulations on hiring. That's amazing. Yay. Alumni doing well. Love it. Josh, you're raising your hand again.
Freya, Ursula, I had another question come in the chat, which is I'm wondering if you could just speak to how the Sol Center, might support an alum who's, let's say, 20, 25, 30 years out from graduation, a little bit more seasoned, and is considering making a pivot but might have different skills or a different background than some of our more recent grads.
I love those people. I'm of the age where I can help. Do not be embarrassed. In fact, in some ways, I think it's much harder pivoting at a much later date. Like for many of these individuals I talk to who have been out in the workforce for a very long time, they've done a very similar thing for like a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, and now they're having to figure out, what do I do next? Those are the special conversations. So please, anybody who's in that position, reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation and help you figure out your next step.
I think we have time for one more, Katie.
Maybe a similar question there, but as John pointed out, I have a couple sweet little charges now that, to be frank, are making me change the way that I think about what had been a very sort of traditional career prior to having children. And so I'm curious whether you hear from employers or hear from alumni who are interested in work that better balances with this stage of life, who are interested in part-time work, who are interested in sort of frankly work that's slightly less demanding for a chapter as we turn our attention elsewhere for a moment.
Absolutely.
Can I just, as a mom, do you want to take that one, and then I'll
I know I have a little bundle of joy myself, who is in her three-nager phase. So I completely understand. And I think a lot of that, I think a lot of what COVID really emphasized for us is that there is also a values shift for a lot of us who kind of came out from that 2008 recession, right? Or, survived that or saw it happening. What's traditional anymore? It may not be what works best for, ourselves as individuals. It may not even be what works best for employers. So I think there is a really a very interesting time where I have definitely seen a lot of kind of movement around work flexibility, family support, things like family leave and all of those different efforts, right? People who kind of are able to take on part-time work without fear of losing their job, or step back on hours, but then be able to pick up other responsibilities when they feel ready. So I don't know if there's a solid answer, and I definitely don't have a list of, oh, these are the employers who are open to that and doing stuff like that. But there has been a lot of conversation that I've seen, that this is now a topic. Again, we're not just talking about employees as numbers and cogs in the wheel. We're talking about employees as assets and as human beings that we are. How can we actually, you know, keep them, foster them, because there's been research that's shown that like your next best employee is often the employee that you currently have. So how can you also like be working with the people internally? So I wish I had more, you know, hopeful things to be talking about there, but all I can say is like kudos, because I swear it, like being a parent can often amplify and a lot of our strengths in ways that we probably didn't realize. Ursula, did you have other things to add?
I'm popping a few job boards into the chat right
Great.
now. I'm definitely seeing more job boards come up based on exactly this question, which is how do I recruit remotely, part-time, freelance, in order to fit in with my lifestyle and my needs and what I'm able to give. I'm still a productive member of the world and have many skills, but I don't have the ability to do an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 job anymore or later. And so these are some of the sites that I've seen start to spring up post-COVID. With trying to open up these to connect employers who are looking for employees and vice versa in a more flexible. I expect many, many more of these sites are going to come on board soon. And obviously you can also look for these types of filters on the job boards like LinkedIn and Indeed and things like that. But these sites are specifically focused on trying to connect employees who are looking for a little bit more work-life balance or on their own terms.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. To be honest, I've been sort of struck when I'm at the playground to see the sheer number of highly educated, very experienced people who are looking for something very similar and are willing to take a salary cut in order to do it. So it seems like there would be some advantage from the employer perspective too, in terms of being able to get experienced candidates who want a job that suits that chapter. So thank you. I appreciate these resources.
Absolutely.
No problem, Katie.
Everybody, if it's all right, I am going to jump in real quickly. I've gotten a number of messages in the chat, and I can see from all the cameras that are on that this is a very lively conversation. That being said, I think one of the beautiful things that has come of our Zoom world is the ability to end sessions on time. So I always love to remind everyone that CMC does have one thing amongst many things going for us, which is that for all of our staff, the staff here, our emails are just first letter, last name @cmc.edu. I cannot provide the incredible career advice that Ursula or Freya might be able to. That being said, I can connect you with them or anyone else in the CMC community. So I'm more than happy to be a resource as well. Thank you all so much for being here and taking time out of your day to join us. Thank you so much, Freya and Ursula, for leading us in this talk. I'm just really excited for where this goes from here.